Now we are going to see about the key pointers from essay 402 with regard to the quite often tested questions. So the first one is, what are the factors to be taken into consideration related to the financial reporting whenever we are using the service organization, and how we can tell if those services are significant? Okay, so which area should we see with regard to that? How we can tell it is relevant to the financial reporting process? Whenever the services affect any of the following, it is we are getting the service from a service organization and it is related to any of the following. What are those? Firstly, transaction. Okay, the transaction which are significant to the users entities, the class of transactions in the users entities operation that are significant to the user entities financial statement. So it is significant class of transaction. Next, procedures. So first we are seeing the transaction, next procedure within both the information technology and manual system by which the users entities transactions are initiated, recorded, processed, corrected as necessary, transferred to the general ledger and reported in the financial statement. So if you see, it is like the process. So the procedure both in the information system and the manual system by which the transactions are started, initiated, recorded, processed, if at all then corrected, then transferred to the general ledger. From that it is going to the financial statement. So first is the class of transaction in the entities operations that is significant to the user entities financial statement. So class of transactions which are significant. Next is that entire procedure. It will be both within the information system or the manual system. Then with regard to that, we have certain accounting records, right? Those, it could be either in the electronic or in the manual format, which is used to initiate, record, process, report, all those things. Then how the user entity's information system is capturing the events and conditions other than the transactions that are significant. So how the information system is processing, first transaction, next procedure. So once that is that, there will be certain records. Okay, next talking about the information system in there. Then the financial reporting process through which we are preparing the financial statement, including the significant accounting estimate and the disclosures. The financial reporting process. Finally, what we'll have once all is done, we'll have the journal entries, including the non-standard journal entries used to record the non-recurring, unusual transactions and the adjustment. So if at all this service organization is touching upon any of these activities, then we will have to take it into account. So what are those class of transactions which are significant? Then procedures could be both within the IT system or in the manual system. Then the related accounting record, then coming to the information system. Then from there only we are going to do the financial reporting. Then finally we are talking about the journal entries, including the non-recurring, non-standard, unusual transactions or the adjustments. All these would be considered. Moving on, how we can get an understanding how we can obtain an understanding of the user entity that uses a service organization. So how we can understand, what we can understand about the user entity? Firstly, about the nature of the services which is provided by the service organization and the significance of the services. What service they are providing, what is the significance of the services. Then nature and materiality of the transaction processed or accounts of financial reporting process are affected. So what they are doing first, next what is happening in here, so what transactions and all they are processing about them. Next, the degree of interaction between the activities of the service organization and those of the user entity. So interaction between the both. The next, about the nature of the relationship between the user entity and the service organization, including the contractual terms. So whenever there is an interaction, there's going to be some contractual terms that will be enforced. So nature of the services which is provided by the service organization, the significance of the services. Coming about this user entity, nature and the materiality of the transaction that is processed in here. Third point, about the interaction, degree of interaction, and what is the nature of the relationship, and or and the contractual terms. So by understanding this, we can understand how this user entity uses a service organization. Moving on. So we are going to see about the type 2 report. So what is a type 2 report? So here, let us also understand the question. So Happy Hospital is a renowned hospital, and they have started using the Noise system, which includes complete record of the indoor patient. So they have all the medical history and the treatment details, everything. CAZ is a statutory auditor, and he came to know about this while about the system while auditing, and he is concerned whether the controls are effective or not. Okay, and he is demanding from the service entity that they'll have to provide an assurance report from a practicing chartered accountant about their opinion on the description and the effectiveness of the control. So key point here is they are going to see about the description and the effectiveness of the control. So whenever we talk about the description and the effectiveness of the control, we are going to talk about the type 2 report, because type 2 report is where we talk about how the where we talk about the operating effectiveness of the control also. So let us see what and all is included in this type 2 report. Okay, so how, when the type 2 report is given, how we will analyze it? So firstly, we will see the DDO, evaluating whether the description, design and operating effectiveness of the control is at a date or for a period is appropriate. So we'll see the description, design and operating effectiveness of a control is appropriate or not, we will see. Then determining whether the complementary user entity controls, are relevant to the user entity. Okay, evaluating the description, design and operating effectiveness of the control. Then determining whether the complementary user entity control identified by the service organization are relevant. If so, whether it is whether if so, obtaining an understanding whether that also has been designed and implemented, and we will also test the operating effectiveness also. So firstly, we will see the description, design and operating effectiveness of the controls at the service organization. Then user entity control. So here also we are saying there is any complementary user entity control which is identified by the service organization are relevant to the user entity, and then obtaining about an understanding of that, and also checking about the operating effectiveness of those complementary user entity controls. Next, evaluating the adequacy of the time period. So we told no for is at a date or for a period. So checking if it is adequate, evaluating the adequacy of the time period covered by the test of controls. Then evaluating whether the test of controls performed by the service auditor and the result thereof are described in the service auditor report are relevant or not. Testing whether the evaluating whether the test of control and the result which is described in the audit report are providing sufficient appropriate audit evidence or not. So quickly we'll do a quick run of it. So 4 things we'll see when we check about type 2 report. DDO, description, design and operating effectiveness of control at the service organization is at a date or for a period. Then the complementary user entity controls which is identified by the service organization, check if it is relevant for the user entity, and if so, whether it has been designed, implemented and it is operating effectively or not. Next, about the, we don't know it is at a time or for a period. So adequacy of the time period which is covering the test of controls. Next, evaluating if again we are saying the time is enough or not, then the test itself is sufficient or not, and the result, are they providing a sufficient appropriate audit evidence or not. So all those things we will have to see with regard to type 2 report. Fine. Then a small concept with regard to this. So whenever there is an unmodified opinion, okay, whenever there is an unmodified opinion, the user auditor shall not refer to that service auditor's report if at all it is having an unmodified opinion. Okay, unless and until law is telling, okay, you can include, we should not include. The user auditor will not refer to the work of the service auditor where there is an unmodified opinion, because there is an unmodified opinion. He can very well tell, see, it is fine, so I'm not going to do anything. So like that he should not do, because he also has to work. So if reference is required by law, so the law is telling you should refer to that, okay, then he should also indicate that because it is being unmodified, it is not diminishing the user auditor's responsibility for the audit opinion. So I am also required to check it again, and I am also required to give an opinion again. Alright, so whenever there is an unmodified opinion, the user auditor shall not refer to that, right? And if at all there has been a reference, he should remove the reference of the work done by the service auditor, and that is in order. So this is with regard to SA 402. So quickly, the key crux are quite often tested area. So when can we tell it is significant? Whenever the service organization service regard to the significant class of transaction, process, records, then user entities, information system, how it is capturing, then the procedure, the process for the financial reporting, and the control surrounding the journal entry. Moving on, how do we understand how the user entity and the service organization are working? We'll see about the nature and significance of the service provided, then about the nature and materiality of the transaction process. Next, we see the degree of interaction and the nature of relationship, including the contractual terms. All these things we will see. Next, see how we can evaluate about the appropriateness of the effectiveness of the type 2 report. So there we are going to see about the description, design, and operating effectiveness of the control. Then we are going to see about the complementary user entity control, which are identified by the service organization. Then about the adequacy of the time period, which is covered by the test of controls, and then the time lapse in the performance of the last control. So now it is sufficient, or so what is the time gap between the two? Then seeing if the test of controls and the result that is itself is providing an sufficient appropriate audit evidence or not.